pretty disheartening to think about how little people value teachers. I was very strongly urged to like falsify grades. So there was a huge wave of retirements or early retirements and then just exodus during and after the height of the pandemic, and they weren't replaced.
Maggie Perkins always dreamed of being a teacher until the realities of the long hours, lack of support, and systemic pressures pushed her to walk away. She went viral for trading her dream job for a new career at Costco, now making more money with less stress and more time for her family.
I was a movie extra for like 3 months, and I was like, I'm taking home more pay in this day to sit on a park bench and read a book and be the lowest paid person in this building than I was as a teacher with a credentialed degree. Even when I had started being at Costco, I was breaking even for where I was as a teacher in my first year of experience. So at Costco, I make...
Welcome to the podcast, Maggie. Thank you so much for joining us on So How Much Do You Make?
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So what are you doing for work right now?
I'm a corporate trainer and content developer for Costco, and I work at the headquarters.
Awesome. Can you say a little bit more about what that job entails?
Yeah, so I specifically work in membership, and so I train membership employees and front-end employees, so like cashiers assistants, and part of what we do is making any training materials they would need, so how to learn how to do their job, learning how to interact with members, and I also travel for new warehouse openings that are in the region that I'm assigned to, and so we'd help them get ready for that new warehouse to open. And then there's like ongoing regional trainings that we would also travel to. So it's a lot of content development. I'd say probably 80% of what I do is making things and updating things. And then like 10 to 20% is actually engaging with our employees and being in warehouses.
Cool. How did you get into this role?
So I started working at a Costco in the membership department, and it was a new warehouse opening. And so I got to learn a lot more about the company very quickly because it was brand new. And so the corporate trainers were traveling out to us, and I was on the team that opened before the other teams do, because you want members to sign up before the warehouse opens so they can shop when it opens.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to meet the corporate trainers, and then I worked in membership. We opened the warehouse, and then I also worked on the front end as a cashier. So exactly the job that I had, membership and then front end, is the job now that I train for at the corporate office.
Cool.
Yeah.
And going back a bit, what, tell me a little bit more about entering your career. Did you go to college? What was the time after college? What did that look like?
Yeah, so I did my undergraduate degree at Georgia College, which specifically had a program for teachers that was in my specialty, which was middle grades education. I knew not only did I want to be a teacher, I wanted to be a middle school teacher. And that was like my whole plan. I loved that age group, still do. And so I went there for my undergraduate, and I did my degree in education with emphasis in social studies and ELA, and then a minor in history. And then I taught for 3 or 4 years before realizing I did want to do a master's in education, mostly because you get paid more if you have a master's. I did my master's through the University of Georgia, and I wanted to do that program because I also wanted to get a PhD there, because they were one of the only institutions that had a middle grades emphasis where you could get a PhD essentially in that same field. So I was specializing while also like extending, and completed the master's in like 2018. I had 2 under 2.
And so it sounds like you were really passionate about education, about teaching. Was that what you wanted to do your whole life?
Oh yeah. Like I had this easel as a little kid, and I would like draw like little lessons on it and like line up my stuffies and like teach them.
Yeah.
And as soon as like we had study groups, like I would organize the study group, make copies of the study guide. Like even in elementary school, I would like make this little magazine. My friends and I would publish it together, and we were making photocopies like in my dad's office. Like I've always been really into teaching and leading and organizing and content creating in like a relatable way. So then in high school, when I was tutoring and doing that for like, high school money, I was like, wait, this is like a good career, I think. And then I was just like interested specifically in middle school, because I think we go through so much change in middle school. And if you have a really formative good experience, like that can set you up for life. And if you have a terrible experience, it also is profoundly impactful. So yeah, I had a pretty clear vision going into like I chose a small university in the middle of Georgia for this one program, and I went there and I did it, and like I followed the path.
Yeah. So tell me more about post-college.
I went straight into teaching. I was 22 and had my first teaching job. It was also at a Catholic school. But it was like a really negative experience. I had known people who went there, and I was like, if the alumni love it, it's probably a good school. But then the middle school part of it was not a good place to be.
In what ways?
Like I was very strongly urged to like falsify grades. And it was like, you know, this.
What?
Yeah, it was like the weirdest moment. Like I was like called, you know, into the principal's office, and like his teachers still get called into the principal's office. I got called into the principal's office more as a teacher than I ever did as a student.
Yeah.
Like I was a good student mostly. But so I get called into her office, and she's like, hey, so Kevin's mom, his name's not Kevin, Kevin's mom called, and she just wanted to know why he has an 88 in your class, but he's like all A's in his other classes. He's such a smart kid. And I was like, that's odd. Like he can turn in his work, he can make it up. And she's like, oh, and also I wanted to let you know the lacrosse field was just finished. It's all astroturfed now. And it was actually Kevin's family that was like taking care of that for us. I was like, oh, I understand very clearly what I'm supposed to do.
Wow.
And then more things like that stacked up slowly. And I was like, this is a place where people are expected to, like, she's in charge of everything. And also, I didn't have a lot of respect for the admin because they were all people without a pedagogy background. So pedagogy is like the art and the method of teaching. Some of them had like a degree in biology, or they had worked in admin through like the local like church, and now they were at the Catholic school. But none of them understood like the craft of teaching, the profession of teaching. And so anytime I wanted to make a decision that was like about pedagogy or what was developmentally appropriate, they were like, no, that's not the way we do it. I was like, could we think about it though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, as a Catholic school teacher, I have heard you make a lot less money than public.
I made $31,000 in 2014.
Wow.
As a full-time teacher with a degree in my field.
And how much do you make now?
Okay, so I just looked it up because my husband was like, you're going on a podcast. The name is literally, how much do you make? He's like, do you know exactly how much you make? And I realized like I'm at a place of privilege where I don't have like the number in my head at all times.
Yeah.
But I could tell you what I made every single year as a teacher throughout my whole career. And I make $87,000. So at Costco, I make $87,000 at the home office where I'm a trainer. And when I was in the warehouse, I was at like the normal hourly rate, which gets, there's tiered levels of it. And so even when I had started being at Costco, I was breaking even for where I was as a teacher.
Wow.
In my first year of experience. And then once you become a supervisor, which happens pretty quickly for a lot of people, you're past $60,000.
So from your first year of teaching to now, that's $56,000 of a difference.
In like 10 years.
Wow.
And like for scale, if I was in the same district with the same experience that I had left in my most recent teaching post, I would be at 49,000 right now with a master's degree, 8 years of teaching experience. And it doesn't even like the top out. You can be like 20 plus years with a PhD in your field and not making $100,000.
Wow.
Yeah. No one in that district makes more than $100,000.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm assuming at Costco, you can continue to build on this career.
Yeah. So even like if I remain in my current role, there's still a scale, there's a pay scale. And so I can keep the job, you know, like I really enjoy what I do. I could stay in this role for the rest of my career and continue to gradually make more until I'm at the top out of the scale and be making far more than I ever could have as a teacher with a master's, with a PhD. So it's pretty disheartening to think about how little people or how little districts value teachers.
My grandmother was a teacher in India. It was Teachers Day the other day, and some students came to her house, which was really sweet, and like brought her stuff. The regard for teachers in India is actually very different than teachers in the United States. Sometimes I actually cannot wrap my head around how cruelly we treat teachers in the United States, like pay-wise, just the way that parents and districts treat teachers, how much you have to spend out of your own pocket with not making that much money. And then also like just how much you're expected to give of yourself to students and families that most industries do not ask for. But teachers are so important. They are the first line for a lot of kids. The first people that will teach them really complex things. You take care of kids. I mean, I know I'm saying this to you, but that's just, I think about this all the time. Like we need really, really good teachers. I don't think that the system set us up for that at all.
No. Yeah. And something I'm very concerned about is that teacher entry is decreasing. So fewer and fewer people are entering the College of Education, are graduating with teaching degrees, are entering the profession of teaching. So we have fewer teachers entering. We have people retiring at more rapid rates. So there's a huge wave of retirements or early retirements, and then just exodus during and after the height of the pandemic. And they weren't replaced. So class sizes increased. So we've got mass exodus and like stagnation of, the current field, while also having less people enter the field. And that's going to bubble really soon, where you're going to have either class sizes increasing or go from like, a 7-period day to a 9-period day where the students still do 7 periods, but the teachers are there for 9, or people are just shoved into an auditorium on their iPads.
Yeah.
Or teachers come from other countries on just a work visa. It's just a contract. They're treated pretty terribly. They're paid basically nothing. And they can't leave because their work visa is attached to it. So I could leave in the middle of the year. I could walk out the door because enough is enough. But if my status in a country is dependent on this, I don't have that freedom to walk away. So there's a lot more handcuffs being built into the profession while also not changing any of the conditions to make it more appealing to people to come into the field.
Right. So you're at your first teaching job. How long were you there?
I actually left. I left after about 3 months. I saw enough red flags.
Wow. Good for you.
In hindsight, I was like, I can't, little 22-year-old me, that was a big choice for her to leave. Because I don't know, I feel like I would have been more trapped feeling. But no, I left and I worked in the film industry in Atlanta. I was a movie extra for 3 months, and I was like, I'll just figure something out.
Yeah.
And then get another second semester job, which I did. But it was funny because in the meantime, when I was working just in background, I was making more or the same. And I was just you would have it some days you would be just sitting reading a book on a park bench, and that was the set. And I was like, I'm taking home more pay in this day to sit on a park bench and read a book and be the lowest paid person in this building than I was as a teacher with a credentialed degree.
Why do you think we pay teachers so little?
Because we can.
Yeah.
So we pay them with emotional labor. It's similar to nursing and social work. Nurses are paid, they're compensated more fairly, but they do crazy things.
Right.
And but social work, a lot of them are paid less than teachers, counseling less than teachers. And there's this expectation that you would have your meaning and your worth through the emotional investment in the job.
Right.
And because it's also a pink collar labor field, we expect that this is a supplemental income for them. And so they've got someone else's income. They're tied to somebody else's stability. So that's why we expect teachers to pay out of pocket for things, is because this is just their extra job. And I don't know any teachers under 30. When I was in my 20s, I didn't know anybody who rented their own apartment or had bought their own house. They all either, including myself, had a spouse for dual income, had a partner for dual income, or they were renting with multiple people. So it was a household of, people in their 20s, which is not inherently bad. It's not bad to have a roommate.
Yeah.
But you should have the financial ability to save for your future and to build a life.
Yeah.
Especially if you are in a credentialed profession and then not just working in an hourly type job.
When you left the school after 3 months, did you leave and you were thinking this school's kind of red flag, or were you starting to be maybe teaching?
Just school red flag.
Just school of red flag.
I was like, wow, I read the room wrong. And I think there was a lot of pressure on us to have a contract signed. When we were graduating the College of Education, they were like, you should have something lined up. And then we would celebrate each person who did, which is nice, but it pressured a lot of us to either take the first offer we got. And so I was like, I may have done it just because I wanted to get the phrase, you may have heard this in the South, a bird in the hand, two in the bush. Okay, so I was like, a bird in the hand, two in the bush. Let me get a job and I'll figure things out later. And it was just the wrong conditions for me. And so I walked away from it and then started teaching in a public district 10 minutes from my house. And I loved that school. It was a really great place to be.
So how were you feeling at that point about teaching?
Still loved it. Saw no cracks. I was still the rosy glasses. I was still I was like, yeah, it's a hard job, but I knew it was going to be a hard job because I had done 2 years of student teaching. It was 1 full year of student teaching placement, and then the previous year had been rotations in different environments of age groupings and content areas in rural, urban. So my program was really well built to genuinely I wasn't unprepared. I wasn't surprised by oh no, we have to buy our supplies, or oh no, parents are rude. None of that was a surprise to me, and so. In hindsight, though, that kind of does groom you to be like, this is fine, this is fine. And I didn't have a clear breaking point really until after I had kids. But because until then I was just taking it on. I was like, I can handle it. I can handle it. I can handle it.
Yeah. So well, first of all, how much were you making when you went to a public school?
It was a big jump. So
Yeah.
I had been at 31,000 at that Catholic school.
Yeah.
And then when I went to like DeKalb County, I felt like I was like rich because I think it was 37.
Okay. Yeah.
But and then like I had friends in Fulton County who were already making 40 and I was like, they're making 40 and I'm close to it.
Yeah.
But also like sometimes a Title I school will pay higher, or districts that have more Title I schools in it have better funding. And so and I loved teaching in Title I schools.
Can you explain what a Title I school is?
Yes, Title I schools have additional funding in it. I'm not positive. I don't want to misspeak about whether it's federal or state, but it's when students are at or below a level needing assistance. And so typically at a Title I school, there's not just free lunch offered, there's free breakfast offered. We always had like a weekend bag type closet where if you weren't going to have like food stability over the weekend, you could pick up meal kits, and it was always discreet. Or like there was a supply closet. Like, so if you were growing too quickly and you had your pants up to your shins, like you could get some new khakis. Or like we had, menstrual products for students before other people did. And the teachers could go shop at this like warehouse. It was like a deconstructed Target. And you could shop at this warehouse and get your school supplies. So like they didn't have decorations, but they had supplies. So there's more funding allocated to Title I schools because they're in communities that need additional support and resources.
So you really liked working at the school. What was your favorite part?
Like honestly, the kids, like they had so much personality. There was never a dull day. And that's the whole thing about middle schoolers too, is never a dull day. And I also liked the teachers. Like they were just a little bit seasoned. Like I was like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and they were like, she'll learn. And I really needed to be around a group of like well-seasoned teachers to help me be so real, Maggie. They're not going to sign that letter or whatever it was. And so they helped me bring me down to earth.
What were you teaching at this point?
I was teaching ELA still, but all of my students were English language learners.
How was that experience?
Really good, because it's like you get to like a story that I might have read as a child and like felt so familiar with, like Holes, for example. We're doing read alouds with sixth graders. Like I would be reading Holes and they were sad. They were like page for page. They were like, tell us the story. Or like if the bell rang, they're like, no. Like they were hanging on to every word. And I was like, that's like such a good feeling when you have kids love reading for the first time and like talk about it and what's going to happen next. Like I loved the energy and interest in it. And this was really before everything was iPads, everything was Chromebooks. So for me, it was like this last golden era of when like learning was still learning and not like memorizing and testing. Because it was 2015, 2014. So it was a nice time.
During that time, even then, did you feel like you had a pressure to reach certain, I just heard from my friends who are teachers, like, they feel a pressure to like get these certain scores and especially like being in a Title I school, I don't know how that affects it. Like, were those pressures on you as well?
Yes, I would say the pressures were equal in all public schools that I taught in. And I have taught in a couple private schools, and the testing, like the benchmarking and the testing and the standardization isn't quite there in private schools right now. I think it will shift, but the benchmarking is the hard part, because like you'll start a semester or a unit and you have to do the pre-test, the mid-test, and then the post-test. And it's just like your curriculum is so interrupted by testing that you don't have time to teach. And then also because of all the testing, you're teaching to the test. And the sad part about all of this is the result is you only teach what can be measured. So not all things are measurable by a test, like the arts, conversation skills, developing a discussion, like the more like intellectual things, like the stuff that AI can't do, like you can't, like that's why AI is designed, is just to answer things and come up with something that's like, that's the plan, that's the strategy. But the softer, like the gray matter parts of your brain, that's not measurable by a test on an iPad. So if we're exclusively basing our curriculum around what can be testable, we lose some really important things.
So how long were you at that school?
I was actually only there for a semester because my husband's job is in music. And so those like full-time work in like as a music director is really rare. So like he was like, I got to take any job I can get. And that job brought us to Florida. And I immediately started teaching there too. But so it was funny because I really enjoyed that school. And I think back on like, what if he'd gotten a job in Atlanta where we already were? I might have stayed there for a really long time. It was like such a good fit. Huge difference is that it was a union, like I was in a teachers union there. And then in Georgia, teachers unions are not like permitted. There's 6 states in the United States where you can't unionize. And they're all southern states. It's like Georgia, Texas, Mississippi. I think Arkansas is on the list. Florida has teachers unions though. So immediately I had this like culture shock where I was like doing something during my planning period. And the union rep for the building was next door. And he comes over and he's in a big huff. He's like, Ms. Perkins, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, like it's my planning. So I was going to like do this parent meeting. And he's like, absolutely not. Like you don't do anything during planning except for plan. And he was like very protective. And he's like, where are you from anyway? And he like learns that I'm not from a union environment. And he's like, sit down. We're gonna get you a crash course in like how a union is designed to like protect you and support you. And I was like, oh my God, this is nice. So I was just like, had this like feeling for the first time of like, is this how other people are living? And it is apparently how other people live.
What was that like? As a teacher, like how did that help you?
Yeah, it meant that like I was like my time was protected and my class sizes were capped. And so like I had no more than 20 students in my room that year and I only taught 6 periods. So like 6 times 20, like I felt like that was a manageable group because in the past I'd had some that were 33, some that were 29. Like throughout the day I could have so many people because with middle school it's a constant revolving door. And so like having class sizes meant that I had better behavior management. I could give attention to each kid. Like they weren't just being shuffled through my day. I had access to actually planning time. There was no expectation for me to be there early or stay late. And then there was also like, you know, my next door teacher who was looking out for me. He was like, you know, you get a protected lunch period, you get a protected planning time. And like, if you're going to a conference, like you're guaranteed a sub. Like you don't have to sub for other people. Because in Georgia and like other non-union states, you have to sub for other people. Like if there's not a sub, you go sub for another teacher and you lose your planning period to do that and you're not paid for it.
I know I'm leading with this question. Why do you think some states ban teachers unions?
It's interesting to me that they're all in the South. And it's interesting to me that teacher labor is very female dominated and that it's underpaid. And it feels as though there's a correlation between the unpaid labor of women and the expectation to support society without asking for anything in return, or that when you do need things in return, it's kind of like the Southern grit of she'll figure it out. And like this determination of like, she'll make it happen because teachers make it happen. Women make it happen. Like, and I think that they've found out that people won't leave if they take away, like once they start adding things in and making it more complicated for you, they also make it hard for you to say no. So, well, that's true in unions too. Like there's the golden handcuffs of your pension and stuff like that. So it's not like unions are a perfect world, but the ability to bargain collectively, I think is extremely important for workers' rights.
Definitely.
And it shouldn't need to be. Like an employer should be ethically paying for and providing for their workers in exchange for labor. Like that seems like common sense, but unfortunately we don't have enough common sense. We have to regulate common sense.
Yeah, I mean, unions are incredible. The more and more I continue to learn, like they are amazing. But in a perfect world, we wouldn't need any unions, but that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I did not know about union ban. So how long were you in Florida?
Like 2.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And during the time I was also nannying along 30A in the Destin area. I remember being like, I would do a weekend nanny for a couple from DC, actually. They were lobbyists. They would just fly down to their house in 30A. And I would make more money in that weekend just taking care of little kids, hanging out at the beach in a gorgeous house than I would in a week of teaching.
Did you feel like you had to supplement your salary?
Yeah. But also like my husband was a music director and that's also like an emotional labor type field where people are underpaid, under-resourced, because like identity professions like musicians, artists, they're like, you should get your worth from your sense of satisfaction and the art you create. And you're like, well, I can't pay my rent with my sense of satisfaction. So anyway, I did feel that I needed to earn a little bit more. Plus he worked weekends as a musician. So it wasn't like I was missing out on family time. But at the time it was definitely necessary. I mean, I had student loans.
Yeah.
Like I was trying to like not rent forever. I gave up on that pretty quickly. But yeah, I did feel like I had to work more.
At this point, how are you feeling about being a teacher?
Still feeling good. Like I'm really, maybe today I'll find out when the tipping point was. Cause I haven't thought like year by year yet what the issues were.
Yeah.
This was when like my rosy glasses shifted a little and I began to see what should have been a red flag. I was like, conditions are bad and getting worse. what can I do about it? But by the time I left, my position was conditions are bad and getting worse, and nobody's doing anything about it. I can't save this alone. There's like a documentary in education. It's called Waiting for Superman. And it's like, the idea that someone can save us or like something needs to change. So I kind of thought maybe I'll be Superman. So that was when I started going to different like conferences for education and trying to meet leaders in the field and learn about like, how did you get to your position where you are now? And then kind of figuring out what schools they were teaching at. And that's how I landed on really wanting to go to the program at the University of Georgia and become a teacher educator. Because I was like, I can't change the conditions in schools, but maybe I can help teachers be better prepared to go into these schools.
My sister-in-law's a teacher coach. She taught in the classroom for a really long time. And now she and her two best friends, the three of them, all were teachers together. And then she now is a teacher coach. One is a principal, and one I think was a coach and now is back in the classroom. So I've seen the many different ways that a career can go with being a teacher. Had you thought about leaving the classroom?
Yes. I thought I could have a future as a teacher educator at a university or within my district. I could become an administrator and like really support teachers that way. Or I could, keep fighting this and be a classroom teacher. I wasn't envisioning careers outside of education at all, really.
Yeah. And then after you were in Florida, did you move back?
Yeah, we moved back to Georgia. Both of our families are in the Atlanta area, and we felt ready to start having kids. And so we moved back, and I actually taught at my husband's middle school. So it was kind of cool to be in that area again. And I was teaching social studies and really enjoyed it, but I was pregnant both years that I was there. And so I think my experience was a little skewed by how I was sick like all the time. I was as close to being hospitalized as you probably can be without actually being like, she needs fluids or she needs like bed rest. Like it was just like I was on the line all the time. And I really think the extreme nature, like being a teacher takes a huge physical toll on your body.
Totally.
And I really think that teaching through 2 difficult pregnancies affected me and my pregnancies. Like both my girls came 3 weeks early to the day.
Wow.
And they were both due in March too. Actually, this worked out really nicely because I missed testing season.
Yeah.
So earlier when you were like, were you really concerned about benchmarks? I was like, no, I knew I wasn't gonna be held accountable to those scores. So I wasn't like teaching to the test both of those years. I was just teaching to the content, which is what teachers should be able to do.
Yeah.
And because I was like, I want to be out when they're testing. So no, I'm not that worried about the test. But I would definitely recommend if you want to be like a teacher and you're pregnant, like conceive in July, you'll be due in like March, and then you kind of take the rest of the year off.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't take the whole year off though, for the rest of the year because health insurance is trash for teachers.
That was my next question because I have some friends who are teachers and they actually had no leave.
No leave.
None.
Some people bank sick leave to donate to people, which is crazy. It's fundraising healthcare.
Yeah. I've had friends who did FMLA, friends who took disability because their schools where kids are did not give them any parental leave. Did you have the same situation or was it pretty similar?
And so I was pregnant during my first year with that district, which means you don't qualify for FMLA until you've completed a year of employment. So my first pregnancy, I didn't qualify, but I did take disability. I took disability, but I only had like 6 weeks or something like that. Like my daughter had to go to daycare as soon as she was like cleared to go to daycare. And then because I had taken that leave the following year, I still wasn't qualified for FMLA because I didn't have 12 continuous months of employment.
Oh my gosh.
And I had used my sick days because when you're new, you don't have like sick days banked. And so I had been using them for my doctor's appointments for my pregnancy. And also I was sick all the time because I was surrounded by 1,000 middle schoolers.
Right.
And so I didn't have even like just sick days saved up. And in this district, we couldn't bank and donate sick days. And so like the teacher across from the hall from me, she was also pregnant at the same time. And she had been there for like 8 years and she had saved enough sick days to like take leave for the rest of the year. So I was always really jealous of her because she was like at home with her baby. Yeah. She had saved her sick days, which is so dystopian. But yeah, with my second one, I went into labor like at school and my kids were in the computer lab and I was like, oh no, like it's happening. And then I told my principal, I was like, come to the computer lab right now. And she's like, but you're not even due for like 3 more weeks. You can't be in labor. And I was like, let's tell the doctors that you think I can't be in labor. Right. And so I went to the hospital and they were like, baby's coming. And like, I almost gave birth in the emergency room. It was like about to happen. And then like a day later, I get a call from the school secretary and she's like, hey, so sorry to bother you, but where's your sub plans? I was like, I don't know. I didn't make them because I was delivering 3 weeks early.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And also, it's not my responsibility to actually make the sub plans. When you hire a long-term sub, that person is responsible for the curriculum, the content, the parent phone calls, everything. They are the teacher. It's different than a day at a time sub. So I was like, that's on you guys. They were very mad. That was probably the end of the rosy glasses. Yeah. And I was in grad school too. So I was like, my beginning to shift a perspective where I was like, I'm not learning this this master's degree. I'm not taking this on so I can apply it to my teaching position. I'm taking this on so I can apply it to my future that's still within education, but I'm not going to be a classroom teacher. So that was when I kind of stepped into a different like branch of the path where I said, I deeply love and care about education, but I'm not going to be a classroom teacher for the rest of my life. And just seeing the way that whether it was union or non-union or just the treatment and the conditions that people weren't cared for, period.
Yeah. I mean, calling you the day after you give birth is...
It's really bad.
Right. So talk to me about leaving teaching.
Yeah. So I was like in my PhD program at this point, and I was doing the PhD full time, and I was learning all of the theory and the methods about what it means to teach teachers and how did the field get to where it is and like what are the important things happening. And this was summer of 2020. Like it was very charged, right? And then it was all of 2020, 2021. I was coaching cross country at a local high school.
Yeah.
Like, we'll pick up a stipend wherever we can get one because we're broke. And so I was already connected to that school, and they were like, well, we might have like 3 classes for you to pick up if you want. And I was like, please, that would be great. And it was like an ideal scenario. And then 3 classes turned into full time. And then I was teaching full time again. And there was a lot of corruption. Like we could do a whole nother episode on that school. And for me, it was so bad that I was like, I'm going to let this door hit me hard on the way out. I want to learn from this. I want to sit in it and feel it and never wonder, should I go back? Like I want it to, like sometimes like you need to feel how painful it is to know that it was the right thing. And so like, it was just like somebody had to like rear their ugly head to really show me once and for all, like how bad things are, how much worse they can be, and nothing is going to change.
What was the straw? If you can talk about it. If you can, it's okay.
It's fine. I can talk about it. I've talked about it like vaguely on TikTok, but the very final straw was that I was working at a school with no social media policy. And at that point, my TikTok was completely anonymous. It was called Millennial Miss Frizzle. I'd never said my real name. I'd never showed my school, never even like geotagged the city I was living in. And there was a group of parents who didn't like my instruction and like the way that I was teaching. And they had begun to like raise concerns to the principal. But it kind of fizzled out. And then a month later, there was a priest at the school who was doing things that did not abide within his code of conduct. And I followed the procedure. I created the report within the archdiocese, submitted it anonymously. And 3 days later, my accounts were all disabled. My like access to the school was gone. And I took 3 days leave and I said, what's going on? And then they were like, you need to come into the school. And I was like, you can tell me what's going on. Like, text me back, call me back. And they wouldn't. And so eventually they forced me really to come into the school. And I knew what had happened. And they said, you're just not a good ambassador of the community. And I was like, how so? And they're like, well, it's because of your social media. And I said, you don't have a social media policy. And my name is not on there anywhere. And I've done nothing disorderly on my social media. And he said, well, your name and face is on our website. And your face is on your social media and people can tell. I said, you put my name and face on your website. You don't have a social media policy. This isn't grounds for anything. He's like, it's okay. Like, we'll still pay you out over the summer, but you're not going to go back into your classroom. You're not going to see your students anymore. And he was like making it seem like it was this like gracious thing he was doing. The priest got to finish the year and got like basically a promotion in the next town over. So on that day, and I've actually never said this on TikTok, but like that was the last day I was a teacher and the last day I practiced religion in any way. Like that was it for both of them for me. So I let the door hit me real hard on the way out.
That is like a really, really intense, tough experience. Yeah.
And like the part of it that I mourned the most was knowing that the students were still there. that they were still in that environment where they were that uncared for, that unsupported, that they also got no closure. They thought Miss Perkins just ghosted them.
Yeah.
And I really like closure. We all do. And so it was hard for me to not be able to tell them this is what really happened. But I couldn't tell them.
Yeah. That's really tough. That is
Yeah.
really tough.
Yeah. But I had this like peace with it that I was like, it's really, really done.
It kind of sounds like it. This is a really intense experience, but also like, how can you come back from that?
Yeah. And I sometimes wonder, like, if I was in another state, or if I had stayed at that second school I was at, like with that serendipitous classroom, like, would things have been different? They might have been. Or like, what if I lived in Norway? Or what if I moved to Canada, like where there's just better environments and people are safer? Like, I really think I could have lasted longer. But I'm also like, why wonder so much? Because I'm so happy, like now,
Yeah.
you know.
What do you think some of the biggest misconceptions people have about teachers?
I think people think that teaching is effortless for a teacher because they make it look so good. Like a good teacher, like there's no cracks. She's like Louisa. She carries it all. And or he carries it all.
Yeah.
We love all of our teachers. And so there's this perception that because they've handled it in the past, they can handle it again, and it's not a big deal because we so easily take on all that labor
Yeah.
because of the kids.
Yeah.
And that's like, do it for the kids is like such a common phrase in teaching. And it's very reminiscent of people who stay in a bad relationship for the kids and they don't want to have like a divorce or a split up. And they're like, it's best for the kids. And they just like take it on and they take it on until you crack.
Yeah. And I feel like that also comes out in like even misconceptions about benefits. Like people think that teachers get paid to not work in the summer, even though that's not the case.
Yeah.
People think, I saw your TikTok recently, people think that every teacher has a pension.
Yeah.
People think like some of these things that are just completely, honestly should be true, but are completely untrue.
Yeah. The amount of, even just like labor hours, the amount of labor hours teachers do during the calendared school year equates to as much or more than other people do, like than I do in like an office setting job. And it's because you don't see all of it. Like if the school, people think, you know, if the school day is from 8 to 2:30, that's the only time teachers are working. It's not. They're there before, they're there after, or they're on the weekends. Like my husband has this photo of me. We're at an airport gate and I'm sitting on the floor, as one does, grading an essay, waiting to go on vacation, waiting for our plane to board. And I had brought a folder of things to grade with me. And it was just like, that didn't seem wrong to me at the time. And now I can't imagine if I'm like, hang on, mommy has to finish this spreadsheet. What? Like I would never. So it's a different world. And it's like the imagery of a boiling frog. Like if you put a frog in water and bring it to boil, the frog doesn't know it's being boiled and it just croaks. And oh my God, it croaks. And that's like what teaching is like, is you come into it with this passion and this do it for the kids attitude. And that's both what sustains you and also what kills you.
Yeah. So going from teaching to Costco, was that plan A? What was the plan after you left? And how did that transition into working at Costco?
Yeah, it was not the plan at all. I think probably 80% of Costco employees told themselves, I'll just work at Costco for a little while until I figure it out. And then they're like still there 15 years later.
Yeah.
Because Costco is the thing that happened, you know? And so I had applied to Costco, but I also had a contract with just a different public school. And I was like thinking of it as my one last year. And that was the perspective I was going into it with is I'm going to use this one last year. I'm just going to clock in, clock out, figure it out. I'll still be a teacher. I'll still take care of my students, but I'm not doing any of the other BS that's going on. So I was prepared to finish the summer and go back into teaching for one last year. That's what I told myself. And I said, but Maggie, you have this summer to figure it out. And so at the end of that summer, I had just started at Costco, but it wasn't quite enough to make up all the difference in income because like at that point I was making 47 as a teacher and my starting rate at Costco I think was 22 an hour. So it was just off. And I was doing like contract work with some education like tutoring companies and I was making like a curriculum for them. So I did multiple like freelance type things to sustain me. But then pretty soon into it, I connected with a career coach actually through TikTok. And he was like, I'm just interested like in this story. And so he asked me about Costco versus, or like, just what do you see your future doing? And at that time my head was swimming with PhD, classroom education, retail. Like what does it look like to start over? And at the end of the call, he said, the only time you really smiled was when you were talking about Costco. And I was like, oh, you're right. So he was like, what if you just focus on where you are right now and then see what those opportunities are? He's like, you've met the corporate trainers. You started to understand like the corporate structure. He's like, there's a good path for you at the warehouse. And there's also like a path for you if you want to use your teaching skills at corporate. And so I kind of like had that nugget in the back of my mind, and I was still applying to so many other jobs. I was like, I can work in ed tech. I could work in curriculum. Like I could do a lot of different things because I still really wanted to stay close to education. And he was like, maybe he kind of pushed me. He was like, maybe you like follow this Costco thing. And so it was just aligning the right way. And then one of the trainers who had opened the warehouse with us, she actually came back, which is really rare. Normally we go before the warehouse opens and we don't come back that often. Like we get them started. And she came back and we just really connected. And she was like, keep your eye on the job board. Like look for opportunities. You know, if you're willing to move across the continent, there's a lot of opportunities. And she's like, I think you should think about it. And so I did. I checked that job posting like every day. And then finally a job came up on the same team that I had met. And it was really cool to like actually be hired onto the team that inspired all of it.
When you went from teaching to working at Costco, you've talked about how teachers are supposed to have this moral, I'm doing this great thing. And they are. Yes. But there is a lot of that attached, I think, both internally and externally. What were some of the reactions that you got after you left teaching to work at Costco?
It's a mixed bag. Some people were like, yes, good for you. Get out. You like, if any of it, like they were cheering me on. Some people were like, you're betraying us. How could you? And then some people, and that was like the teacher voices. So there's like multiple reactions from teachers. And then there's also the teachers, a third party, who say, I wish I could, but I'm 15 years in, I'm vested in my pension, and I just can't leave. I'm too close to, and I was like, oh, but you're not that close. Like you still have 10 more years. Yeah, that's rough. And so I got a mixed reaction from teachers, but then the reactions from like non-teachers is so interesting because everybody thinks they know about school because they went to school. Like, I don't think I know what to tell a plumber to do because I'm not in the trades. I don't know how to do that.
Right.
So I would never deem to like instruct a plumber on how to do their job.
Right. Just because you've used the sink.
Yeah. I've used the pipes. So I would never, but the community at large doesn't feel that way. And I think part of COVID gave people more vocal voices and saying like things they did or didn't feel safe about. And now that there's more like access, I guess, to seeing what's happening in schools, they feel they have more of a stake, but that stakeholder is a really important relationship. But when it tips into I'm in charge of you, I have an opinion that's louder than your degree and experience, then it becomes really problematic. So people saying like, why would you leave the easiest job? You only work 9 months out of the year. You only work 6 hours of the day. Like that's a really common one. Like I have a whole playlist that I call Troll Patrol. And it's just where I respond to people who are just either uninformed or really cruel, or like a lot of people say like, good, I'm glad you left or it wasn't for you. It wasn't for me. Like I went to a really rigorous program. I knew what I was getting into. Like I just finally developed a backbone and said enough is enough. So like I just get so many comments, and then there is that noble profession like aspect where people are like, why would you leave a noble profession? And it's like, well, I can't pay my rent with feeling good about my work. Like I want to feel good about my work, and I have that now too.
Yeah.
But I also was able to buy a house now. Like that's like I had a huge change within just 3 years. Like I went from the lights being off in my apartment to buying a house in the Seattle area.
People kind of forget too. I'm teaching, again, incredible what teachers do. You help families put food on the table. Like people kind of forget that there are a lot of jobs that are quote unquote noble, but we just don't think about them that way.
Yeah.
I think it's to make people feel better potentially about like underpaying teachers or something. I don't know.
And how they can treat other people too. So that was always the juxtaposition that I like called into conversation is, you know, I used to be a teacher and now I work at Costco. And that really disrupted a lot of people's perceptions, both of teaching and Costco. Because they were like, why would you leave teaching just to work at Costco? And that just means a lot because it means they have this perception of a hourly retail employee as not being good as a teacher, that like being a teacher is more noble, more important. And I was like, well, I'm respected more as a cashier at Costco than I was as a teacher. Or like I'm paid more fairly, or my boundaries are respected. Like I clock out and my manager doesn't run after me and say, actually, can you come help with 5 more things? That's never happened. And so like when when I had that conversation online, it disrupted people's perception and it made them very uncomfortable. And when you're uncomfortable, you react and you say things like, you weren't cut out for it. And they try to be harmful and hurtful, and at first it was like harmful and hurtful. But at this point, I see it more as an opportunity to respond and be like, let's break that down. Like, why do you have that perception? Like, is it because you feel like a cashier is a lowly position? Who got you through the pandemic? Like, we can't treat people badly just because they don't make as much money as us. It's not just about money too. It's like, I don't know, like, but not that teachers are treated that much better.
Yeah.
But there's still that perception that like teachers are noble, retail employees are not. And it's like our entire economy depends on the service industry.
100%. Oh, we could have a whole other episode on that. I'm like, the reason you have a clean plate at a restaurant is because someone washed it. Like, why are we thinking that some people don't?
Some people are worth less because of what they do.
Right.
But those people support the entire culture.
100%. Yeah. To become a teacher, you sunk so much time into it. Undergrad, you're teaching, you're student teaching, grad school, the time you spent actually teaching, you've sunk so much time into it. I think it would make sense to have kind of a sunk cost fallacy. A, did you have that? And B, did you have kind of an identity crisis after you left teaching?
Yes and yes. I think the sunk cost fallacy is what kept me in it for a couple of those years where we were piecing through like my transition, like, is it bad enough yet? Is it bad enough yet? Because one of the things, the voices in the back of my head was, you paid so much to be here and you worked so hard to get here. So you have invested in this, like, don't just walk away. And I had very much my identity connected to who I was as a person was Maggie as a teacher. I loved it when people, they're like, what do you do? Like, I teach 6th grade. Like, oh, I could never. I was like, I lived for that. Like, I was like, tell me more about how great of a person I am because I hang out with 12-year-olds. Like, I just really valued my worth in my profession. And it's very freeing to know that I'm good at my job and I enjoy my job, but my current work is not my identity, even as much as I talk about Costco, which I see the like voices are like, no, she loves Costco too much. But I had the sunk cost to overcome because I realized that just because I spent a lot of money on it doesn't mean that I should like keep trying to like make it work because it's not right for me at this point. And maybe it was never right for me at all. So I did have to overcome feeling like I've done too much to walk away. But then something that helped me do that was seeing teachers like 10 years ahead of me in their careers being like, I regret not leaving, or I wish I had thought about it. And I was like, I am 29. I was 30 when I really left. I could still change my life right now, and feeling like it's not too late to change my life, and finally believing myself that I could change my life.
What advice would you have to someone who was kind of feeling the same way that you were when you were having these kind of sunk cost fallacy feelings? Both teachers, but also I think I know there are people across the board who are in kind of abusive workplace situations. What advice would you give to them?
I would really love for them to talk to themselves the way they would talk to a friend. I think we are much better at helping our friends through really challenging situations, whether it's being ready to leave an abusive relationship. Like, we'll say, I'll bring the bags, I'll bring the minivan, like, let's get you out, let's take care of this. Like, you can live with me for a while. Like, we will ride for a friend. And like, if somebody's in a toxic workplace environment, we'll go, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're treating you that way. You deserve so much better. But we don't talk to ourselves the same way we talk to our friends. And so just that self-compassion. And I think it's really challenging once you're sunk down in it to like lift your eyes up and say, would, Maggie at 19 look at this situation and go, that seems healthy? Or would she look at that situation and go, where did we lose the plot? Because like at some point we lost the plot and we just didn't recognize enough of the red flags. Yeah. So like, be your own advocate. And I think we're so good at being courageous for others, but not at being courageous for ourselves. Because like, teaching's a fairly safe career. Like, it's pretty hard to get fired as a teacher. Even if you've actually done things wrong, it's hard to get fired, which is unfortunate. Like, it's hard to leave. So that means it's very safe to stay in. And so a lot of people stay in a place of safety because it's scary to start over. It was so scary to start over. Like, when I go back and watch my videos from that time of transition where I wasn't sure where I was going to land, I had no idea what was going on. And I was just trusting that I could work it out. And then the last thing I would say is, you can always go back to teaching. You can. Like, it's a skill that you have in a profession that you have, and there is a great need for teachers. So like, you can go back, and that you're not betraying people by leaving. nobody has ever left teaching and then had their like former friends and former colleagues go, well, screw her. Like, we're never going to text her again. Like, she has betrayed us. Like, it's not like a slammed door. So you have a safety net. You can go back to it, but you can also be courageous for yourself and change your own life.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about your current job,
Sure.
which sounds really great. How has that been going?
I really enjoy what I do. And
Yeah.
I'm going to sound like such a big old bootlicker, but you know what? I love Costco and I love my team specifically. I'm sure there's people who work for Costco who are like, I don't like my job. And that's a bummer. I'm really sorry. Like, I fortunately really enjoyed working in the warehouse, could have happily worked there throughout my career. And I really enjoy working at the home office. I have like the best team in the world. Like, I used to cringe when people would be like, oh, my work family. And I'm like, no, but I love them. Like, when I look at like other cool job posts at Costco, I'll be like, but I would have leave my team.
Yeah.
And I just can't do that. You know, and so I am in office just 3 days a week, which is great. And that wasn't like advertised when I applied for it, but they were like, yeah, and you're home Thursday, Friday. I was like, oh, great.
Great.
Yeah. So I'm hybrid-ish. I can't flex my days, but the whole team will be in office Monday through Wednesday. Then we're home Thursday, Friday. There is a good bit of travel, but kind of like increases and decreases. Like this month I have 3 trips, but I haven't had a trip in the last 2 months.
Okay.
So it fluctuates. And then I have incredible benefits. Like when I had a hysterectomy almost 2 years ago, it was like total cost less than $500 because of my insurance.
Wow.
Yeah. Giving birth I'm still probably paying for giving birth. I'm on like a payment plan in Piedmont Hospital somewhere. So like I don't have medical debt. I was able to like also like dental and vision. Like when I was a teacher, dental and vision isn't always included. And so I went like 5 years without dental. And that's really bad. Number one, because your mouth matters. And number two, there's 3 dentists in my family. So I had this like Irish Catholic dental shame where I was like, I can't even go to my like uncle and cousin who are my dentist because I feel such deep, deep shame about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I ended up having like a really expensive dental surgery. Like it costs a lot to be poor. And like if things escalate, now you have a dental surgery, not just dental care. So I'm finally at a place in my life where like I can care for my basic needs. Like when I was a teacher, like one time I got home, I had both babies and I go in the living room and the lights are off. Lights are off, no electricity, I hadn't paid the bill. We got in final notice. We said, we'll try to pay it. There's just like nothing more humiliating than walking into an apartment with your babies and you can't like turn on the oven, you know, like there's some deep, dark moments. And then now it's like, I don't have to check my like bank account before I go grocery shopping. And it's not because I'm rich, but it's because for the first time I'm stable. And I can't even explain how much weight is lifted to finally feel stable. Like that's the bare minimum, stable. And I'm like 33 and just now there.
Yeah. Your face totally lit up when you were talking about your students and totally lit up when you were talking about your team.
Mm-hmm.
I can also see how your education background really helps you excel in this job. Do you see some of those similarities?
Absolutely. Everything I do is like Maggie was definitely a teacher. Like one of the things I'm proudest of making in my role is this like basically a curriculum. And it's designed for warehouse employees who are in leadership positions to stay on track each day, each week of the year and know like what's coming up next, what are our data, our numbers mean, and to guide them through that. And whenever people are like, how'd you think of this? I'm like, it's just a curriculum. Yeah, like it was just natural to me. I was like, why didn't we have one in the first place? Like that makes sense. Or when we started using more like Google Drive, Google Workspace, a lot of our employees in the warehouse, they are not like super techie folks. Like they're really good at what they do and Google Docs is not one of them. And so I host these like technology support calls and it's just like drop in, like, you know, you would go see your teacher after school and they would walk you through the study guide. I was like, let's just talk through this and like, let's do it step by step. And so many things that I do in my role now are just me being a teacher. Mm-hmm. And there's one specific part of my job is I train other trainers how to be trainers. It's exactly what I was trying to do with my PhD was I wanted to teach teachers how to be teachers. Now I train trainers how to be trainers.
I know life has gone really differently than you thought when you had the easel growing up, but do you feel like you've made it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that 5-year-old Maggie would be really happy for where I am now.
Yeah.
Plus 5-year-old Maggie loved Costco. Like
who doesn't?
Who doesn't? Like some of my early childhood memories are just like sitting in the cart And the mom's like, get help. We got to put more stuff in the cart. And you're like, oh, I don't want to walk. And then because I went to Catholic school, I was there like after school in my uniform and I could never sneak more than one sample because the sample, they were like, you've been here before. I was like, can I just have some more chips?
What's your favorite Costco item?
Oh my gosh. The item I buy the most consistently is gas.
Mm-hmm.
Gas is underrated because it's so much cheaper. It's a top tier fuel. The pumps are faster. No one gets in accidents, and I get 5% cash back at Costco gas, so that's great. But my favorite items are like the little treasure hunt things where it's like chocolate covered acai berries. Like, why not? Just those little treats that I would not buy for myself at the normal grocery store. I'm like, for $8.89? Okay.
Yeah. My parents love Costco. I joke, if I call them, they're either going to Costco, at Costco, coming home from Costco. Yeah. That is big Costco family.
Love that. Thank you for being a member. I appreciate that. What's your favorite like food court item?
Food court item. It's so tough. I mean, the hot dog is so good, but I feel like the pizza has the perfect amount of like the brown dots.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that is my perfect slice of pizza. So it would probably be that. But I also have to say, I think Costco has the only good pesto.
Yes.
It's actually good.
It's so good. And it's because it's got like real Parmesan in it. Oh my gosh. I love our pesto.
It's really good. It's the only like store-bought pesto that's like really, really good.
The store-bought pesto?
Susie. She call me crazy.
Call me crazy. I was like, Susie hasn't had Kirkland signature pesto.
That is all I could think of. That is all I could think. Because we grew up having the store-bought pesto and then the tortellinis. If we just needed like a really easy meal, that is what we had. And so I was like, I don't know what Susie's talking about.
Yeah, Susie needs a Costco membership.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. I really love this conversation. I think we actually could have talked for like 10 more hours.
A long time.
We'll have to have some sort of part B, but thank you again. Is there anything you want to plug?
My platform that I use most is TikTok. I use the handle It's Maggie Perkins, and I'm the same on Instagram, so you can follow me there. I do get like a lot of comments and DMs from teachers, and I do like respond to teachers all the time. It's a safe space. And then I have a podcast too. Okay, so we're gonna do season 2 of the Bad Teachers Club podcast, which my co-writer John, he's also a PhD student. Anyway, we do it together, and we talk about things in education and our PhD journey and what it was like to be in education and leave education. So the Bad Teachers Club is where you get more hot takes than what's just on TikTok.
Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you for like inviting me. This was really fun.
Yeah.